The Olympics, 1936. During that time, all of the signs about Jews vanished, and restaurants, Jews not wanted, vanished. So foreigners came and they saw nothing. Berlin was a beautiful city, and they decorated, I must admit, beautifully. I went with some friends to the Unter den Linden autographing. We were kids, you know. I got some autographs, quite a bit from foreign countries who participated, you know. Men and women who participated in the sports. And we were proudly showing off, you know. And we knew all about Jesse Owens. He was our hero. It was a good time, I must say. Then, of course, after a while, those signs were back again. We were told that there were some soldiers in a farmhouse who wanted to surrender, and we walked up in a loose group, not a military type of action. We were just going in, informal, and several rounds were fired at us. Well, then we lobbed a bazooka shell into the house and several soldiers ran out. This one person was running away from me and didn't halt when I fired a round. It went down, and when I approached it, I realized I had shot a girl, about 18 or 19 years old, dressed in something like the Women's Land Army uniform. And we ran into these situations quite often. It's still hard to say it now, but at that time, whenever we captured an SS soldier, if he made it to a POW camp alive, he was lucky. In fact, I can say that probably 90% of the ones we came in contact with are buried over there someplace. A few weeks ago, I was standing one evening somewhere near Checkpoint Charlie. On the other side of the wall, 3 soldiers were sitting on a block of concrete. They gestured to ask if I had a few cigarettes for them. I went to the nearest cigarette machine and bought some packs of Lifes, the favourite brand of border soldiers. I wrote a few words of greetings on a small piece of paper and threw it over with the cigarettes. The soldiers carefully scanned their surroundings before they picked up the cigarettes. A little later, a note weighted down by a stone came flying over. It said, "Thanks a lot for the cigarettes. We're married with children, and that's why we can't jump over. We've just got to put up with this humbug. There are many here who think as we do." The 3 of them shared the cigarettes and burned the packages. One of them kept constant watch on the area behind them. I wrote another note, telling them that I had also been a border soldier and had fled to the west, and that I would like to come to the wall another day and see them again. I threw this over the wall with 2 more packs of Lifes. They sent me a detailed answer. "Today is the last day of our 16 days duty at the wall. You know yourself what it's going to be like here. Tomorrow we're going into intensive training. So that you'll know the new guards are okay, we'll tell them to turn their caps around in their hands. We'll be back here on the 19th or 20th. Many of us here envy you for making it." From time to time, I still spoke to those soldiers, in spite of the cleverly contrived control system between us. That was the beginning of the enormous student protests in Berlin and Paris. In Berlin, every Sunday, there were great demonstrations, and sometimes with police and water cannon dispersing them. I used to go to these, because I felt the students, their protests were right. I was riding the U-Bahn to training, and I was standing. I had to stand. There were no more seats. There was a girl there. She was also without a seat. The 2 of us stood behind a man who was sitting, reading his newspaper. We were both trying to read his newspaper from over his shoulder. We noticed each other and had to laugh at the fact that we'd had the same idea. To cure the boredom of the ride, we ended up reading this stranger's newspaper together. We parted as we arrived at Möckenbrücke, as you do. Only afterwards did I realize I needed to see her again. I took out a little ad in the newspaper, where people can write little queries or messages, and often these are people seeking those they spotted on the U-Bahn. I wrote, "Looking for you, you with the sweet laugh, line 1, Tuesday 28th, around 7 p.m, and so on." And the result? A phone call came. The girl on the line was also searching. she said to me. Is it you? With the blonde hair? And, well, my hair is definitely not blonde. In 1986, experimental filmmaker Knut Hofmeister organized a party behind the squatted Bethanian Hospital in Kreuzberg to celebrate 25 years of the wall. Just like they did in 81, they painted the wall white and used it as a screen for their Super 8 movies. This time, they projected their movies right across the death strip onto a house in East Berlin. There was no censorship, no regulations. Everybody could do what he or she wanted. Berlin-based fire artist Kane Karawan set the wall on fire while others were peeing on it. Peeing on the wall was very common, and it was widely tolerated by the West Berlin and the Western Allied authorities because you were peeing on USSR-controlled communist soil. So it was a symbolic act of urinating on the enemy. There were no problems with that. You could also smoke joints and deal drugs on the backside of the Reichstag, East German soil. No Western police allowed. It was a legal vacuum. I went to Checkpoint Charlie and started interviewing East Germans as they came out. Many of them were suspicious and would only give their first names. At one point I was standing on top of the wall with a huge crowd, and people were handing us bottles of sparkling wine and beer. It was like a huge party. The bunker was the home base for all the techno heads in Berlin. The building itself was very impressive. Noise complaints weren't an issue there either. There'll never ever again be a club like that, at a location like that. I was there for the first time in 1993. I was 15. As soon as I got in, I asked about DJ Cut X. He's back in jail again, was the answer. Again? I asked. Yes, it happens a lot. Yes, that's why people had warned me about the bunker. But a lot of different people came together there, and sometimes it was pretty funny. When coming out in the yard from one of the techno parties, it was possible to come across fetishists who had their slaves on a leash, and at the same time old couples coming out from the Tanerias cabaret. That was pretty unique. At 15, I moved to a new school, and it was there that I met her. The first thing I noticed about her was her odd socks. One was bright red, and the other a faded grey. We sat beside each other in mathematics class, and she borrowed me a pen that had been chewed up. About a week into the school year, I noticed her writing in Asian characters on the back of her copybook. I asked her what language it was, and she told me she studied Japanese on Saturdays. It was her dream to move to Japan and work as a teacher. This was how we began to talk, and soon enough we were walking home with one another every day after school. For 15 minutes or so, we would walk the way home together along the Spree. She talked with such passion about Japan, how in Kyoto there was no Spree, there was the Kamo River, and that the Kamo River was the birthplace of kabuki theatre, and how even Claude Monet was inspired by woodblock carvings of kabuki dances. At Moltkebrücke, we would part ways, as she lived on the south side of the Spree, and I on the north. One day, just before parting, she planted a kiss on my lips before running with her cheeks bright red across the bridge, calling back, "Sayonara," with a giggle over her shoulder. Now, she does live in Japan, and perhaps she shares her giggles with the Kamo River. I think of her whenever I cross the Spree.